Live.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki
Fateh. Satnam, my name is Rajinder Singh and welcome to yet another episode of It Conscious Living. It's the show where we try and bring inspirational people, people who we can learn from, and today I have two such amazing guests, and as always what I do is I let the guests introduce themselves and I'll do the same. So Kamalroop Singh, if you please introduce yourself.
My name is Kamalroop Singh. I've just completed my PhD at Birmingham University. My subject was about the Dasam Granth Sahib.
Oh, got so much to learn about that.
Which is Guru Gobind Singh's sacred writings. And previous to that, I completed a degree in chemistry. And part-time, I worked for the police as a linguist and as an expert witness in the Crown Courts.
Wow. Okay. Again, I better be careful what I say. And Sukhi ji, if you please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Sukhi Wahiwala. I'm a businessman across many different angles of business, probably 20 different sectors of industry which I have knowledge of. I've also had a life-changing experience in about 2006, which has reformed and augmented a new journey of mine in life. So I'm hoping just to talk about how this has happened in time.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. Kamalroop Singh, we were just talking earlier, and you know, I'm so glad, I really am, that somebody has come up with a book on the Dasam Granth Sahib. I mean, I was talking a few weeks ago, last month, with Benji, and I was asking a few questions. If I could just show you this book, I put this up last month, and I really wanted to get hold of Kamalroop Singh and tell me more, because my thirst for this was just, it just wasn't quenched. I needed more, and I thought, let me bring a lot of people who have asked about this. So Kamalroop Singh, Dasam Granth Sahib, it's something, you know when we talk about Guru Gobind Singh Ji, I think everyone feels that they know about Guru Gobind Singh Ji, but yet at the same time I do feel that there is so little known. You know, I think you would agree with that, Sukhi ji, as well.
Totally.
Please tell us about the Dasam Granth Sahib, how it fits in. We were talking earlier, you said we actually use a lot from the Dasam Granth Sahib, you know, in our everyday lives, and I think we don't even realise it half the time. If you could just take us through briefly.
Okay, Paji. If we look at Sikh practices like Nitnem Baniya and the Ardas and the Nishan Sahib and the Nagara and the Khande Kapol ceremony, how we get initiated into the Khalsa Panth.
Yeah.
All of these practices have their roots in the Sri Dasam Granth Sahib. For instance, the Jap Sahib, after Japji Sahib, the Jap Sahib is the first Bani in Dasam Granth Sahib, or Japji Sahib is the first Bani in Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj.
Yes. Yeah.
So the Dasam Granth is essential in Sikh practices, and the Sikh practice is called the Raith. We all know the Raith Namme. This was formulated in Guru Gobind Singh's time. So for a person to be a practicing Sikh, the Dasam Granth is an integral part of that.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, and I really want to come back to you with more questions on this. I'm just coming up to Sukhi ji, and the reason I invited you today, and what's nice is that today, you know, in the news, everything, the economy, you know, Sanjay, if you hear, the economy is crumbling. You know, there's this fear aspect coming around, and the fear starts to come from inside. Now, if we're to live like Guru Gobind Singh Ji and have that fearlessness, okay, we have to be knowledgeable about our everyday lives. One of those being the finance side. Now, I know in terms of, I was reading your autobiography, okay, and I will put a link actually on our website, because I think from a very young age, you were in your mid-20s, you know, you made your first million. You know, it's, gosh, you know, I'm double your age in that aspect, you know, and I've, you know, exactly. What's nice about yourself is that it comes, that's no big deal. It's not the money that's important, it's the individual. And that is why I find that very inspirational. So it's the aspect of, you know, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, live like a king. You have the acumen or the knowledge. What was it? How did you start in terms of going against the tide, if that's the correct phrase to put it through?
Are you talking about against the tide at the period of when I started, etc.? Well, for me, it was very natural, because I was honoured and gifted to be a part of a family that was very much in the business realm already.
Okay.
My father, Singh Wahiwala, is and will be my mentor, on and off, in conscious and unconscious as well. In every single aspect, we have been brought up as a family, and I'm the youngest of 8, and we've been brought up in a family where business as a whole is an integral part of our life. It's never been seen as a separate part of our life, much the same as a person assumes that they should do a 9-to-5 job.
Yes.
We have been brought up in the same context of doing the 9-to-5 job of being an employer instead of the employee. Now, what is, I think, core to our understandings is the fact that we actually had Gurbani integrated into every aspect and every part of our life. That's like an encyclopedia. I've just come back from India as well, and it's a constant reminder. We're always connected, and our chitta is always connected with Bani somehow. Everything that we do, that automatically finds a reference within the Quran.
That's beautiful.
To give us a clarification of what's happened, whether it be why I've cut my finger, or so forth. And I owe everything that I have to my parents, my mum and my father, and above all Maharaj. And the reality is that I've never really understood and accepted. This is something that I've realised in hindsight after dealing with more and more people, because today I stand as a mentor and a qualified coach, coaching businesses into success, or basically returning their investment in a quicker, more focused fashion. A bit like a bit of a dragon coming into the business and readjusting it. And then on the same token, I'm also a one-on-one coach as well for people to take them through to whichever part of the journey of their life they're trying to get to.
I think that is the most important part, interestingly, because I think every day we see people who say, oh, I've done X, I've done Y. And for somebody who might be watching, so they might be thinking, okay, where is my roadmap, for example? And it's nice. And I think, so this is the important thing here as well, is that both Sukhi and Kamalroop, everyone has knowledge. We all are experts in our own field in one way or another. But I think it takes a different type of person to be able to share that knowledge. And I think that is the important part. And it's the nice thing you're doing it on that part. Kamalroop, I know also as well, it's nice to have you back in the country. Both these guys, they travel around the world. It's nice to have them back in good old England for once, okay? And I know you've just come back from Europe as well.
Andy.
And you also are a mentor to so many people. So
right.
I know from the academia side, you've done a PhD on Dasangram side. But you also do a mentoring to so many people on a one-to-one. I mean, are you able to expand on that?
I can, Buddy, yes. Many people in Europe, they're having a lot of crisis going on in their life, whether it's their relationships, financially, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And people are looking around, for something to give them stability.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a Sikh, we take for granted Gurbani, the wisdom that our parents bless us with, just the whole Punjabi persona of being, having robe and having security and looking after oneself and, health consciousness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when you go out into Europe, and a few years ago we got invited to do Kirtan, because I'm a part of a Kirtan Jatha, and my brother, Bhai Harminder Singh,
yes,
I'm his side Kirtani, and we went to a number of places where they do yoga. And afterwards we got speaking to people, and I started to tell them about the process of doing Naam Simran and Path and Bani and Seva. Because you get dust when you see these people in this state, and you think, how can you help somebody? And then I think, what's the most valuable thing that I have? And I always think Simran, and I always think Seva. And then I try to teach them a bit about how to control their breath and doing Simran on their breath, how it brings you peace and makes you more calmer. And then over the years, over the past, I think about 7 years, they've just been inviting me more and more and more, and more people are interested in learning.
Well, you must be doing something right.
I think Gurbani itself, I try to remove myself out of the equation, but I think Gurbani is such a powerful tool, it's such a powerful consciousness that when we just explain to somebody like what Mool Mantra means, Nirpal, Nirvair, Akal Murad, just some of these key words, it really blows people away. But that treasure that we have, you know, sometimes we forget.
We don't even treasure what we have because we say it every day, you know, doing Japji Sahib, for example, you know, and we don't realise sometimes. So I so agree.
There was one of the Spanish men who's learning at the moment, who's learning a bit about meditation and so on from me, and you know, mentoring, etc.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, he goes, "What is it? Why are you people Sikhs? Why are you so secure?" He goes, "I see Sikh people in Barcelona. They're never afraid. They never look nervous. They never look in a rush. What is it in you people that makes you so strong?" And I just said to him, I said, "Look, it's not us. It's our Guru. Our Guru is so powerful. When we just Matha De Guru Granth Sahib, when we just read Gurbani, do Simran, it has a complete change in our consciousness. It changes the way we feel and the way we approach life." And I said, if you want to get that strength, it's not something that you can just like pretend that, oh, I'm strong now. Mm-hmm. That will help.
I totally.
But from the core, if you go into meditation and bhakti and doing Waheguru Simran and Mool Mantra, it will change you. And you know, he's been doing spiritual practice now for about 2-3 years, and he's grown his dari now, and he wears a bug, and he looks completely different.
That's amazing. Nice. So on the same token, really, it is that aspect of being what I call, in a sense, internal royalty. Because if we're Singh, you know, and coming back to the aspect of having the mentor from your family,
yes,
and the aspect of Sukhi, what was it, do you feel, that took you forward in a sense? Because when you see people, and they say we are a product of our environment, and so we could be within the Sangat, within, you know, the Gurdwara, or it could be the Sangat of just walking down the street, you know. And at the moment, the reason I'm bringing this topic in is, you know, I was reading the newspaper now that they do say you can't believe that you're reading the paper, but I read that there are 20 positions within this particular shop, Poundland, I believe it was, and 500 people applied. And the thing is, the positions that were being applied for were, you know, 2 years ago, those positions probably would not have been filled because they were basic positions. Mm-hmm. So well, at least within the UK, I know it's a worldwide thing, we're in a sort of panic at the moment, you know. So how do you, in a sense, be just above that to carry on what you're doing from that point of view?
Well, to me, immediately, the conversation that there was 500 applicants over a 20 position job, irrelevant of which company it was, proves to me, and I'm sure to yourself, that there's actually a movement going on. People are now wanting to get back to work. So it could well be that the same people who were in jobs before, who had the academic, or should I say, not even the academic, the impetus to work for somebody, have now got themselves in a position where they don't have a job. Mm-hmm. So as in accordance with our Sukhi teachers, it's from within. Their Jagruti from inside them wants them to get the job. So irrelevant of what job it is, get it. We'll want to do everything fully. Now, with an understanding here, is we've all heard the analogy people tend to use quite regularly of the glass being half full or half empty. Yeah. The reality is Sikhi itself teaches us, when you actually realise that Sikhi's ethics behind it is within your pride, there should also be an element of Namrata. There should be a balance both sides. The seashell doesn't tip one way or the other.
So right.
Because if there was not the other would have no value. It's same as yin and yang, the balance of the two dragons, both are equally opposite coloured, but each one has the same colour in it. Yeah. The black dragon has a white eye. The white dragon has a black eye. So there's always a balance going on. It does not mean that this is a bad or a good thing. The reality that I'm trying to talk about here is that at least people have made the effort to get themselves a job. It's coming from within, which to me shows how, for us, I'm sure, because Sikhi is a very key part of my life now, and it always has been, to an earlier age when I was actually reluctant towards it. I was probably rebelling more out of insolence, really, not understanding what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It allows us to stand proud and to be a part of society, which is a key part of Nimrata and our Sukhi as well. Sukhi does not teach us to be out of society. It teaches us to be within society, within Sangha.
Interesting.
And to share and live just like the analogy you gave just earlier on. Be the Kamalroop in the chopper and not be affected. So have an element, a coating of understanding that everything is going to be fine. Roll and hukum. Everything is already panned out for us. Our karam will change that, of course, but our main hukum is already out there for us. So we're taught as Sikhs to make an effort in life. There's an analogy I use in my coaching sessions quite regularly where if we were to have a glass of water and we put in 100 millilitres worth of liquid into that water, into that glass of water, if you poured that glass out into another glass, you would only get 100 millilitres, of water. You're not going to end up with 200 millilitres. The point
But we
is,
do expect sometimes too. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So in life, I'm finding more and more when I'm speaking to the young generation who are away from any faith, that they're looking to pour out 100 and receive 200. But it's not just financially impossible, it's actually just not feasible. If you don't put the effort into something, you'll not receive it back.
I think what's nice is, and you'll see why I'm going to say this, Sanji, is we all want to have our cake and eat it.
At the same time.
Now, talking about that, if the camera could point at these beautiful cakes, and you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. Actually, these have been kindly donated to us by Flowerball Cakes, and the brand who made them, she makes amazing cakes, and she will be joining us next week, and we're going to definitely be enjoying munching on them, So I thought it was so nice the way you're talking, but in reality we do try and literally using that analogy, have our cake and eat it. We want something sweet after we've worked or we haven't worked. I know they do say the youth at the moment, and I personally think it's not true, but they say, the youth are lazy in this, but I think they said that for every generation, I think everyone tries hard, but sometimes they just don't know what to do,
Very true.
And coming back, as I say, it's that internalisation.
Yeah.
And I think I'm saying, you know what's interesting when I was reading this book is the information, because I think from memory, when I was studying in terms of the different gurus, I couldn't really find that much information, I felt, on Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
Hanji.
Where did you do your research to get some information?
Baji, it's funny you say that, and it links back to a conversation we had earlier on, which is that the primary source of Guru Gobind Singh's life is the Dasam Granth itself.
Yes.
And Guru Gobind Singh in Apani Katha, in his own autobiography, Maharaj writes about why he came to this jog, what his purpose was, and how all the other previous religions, where the Panth fitted in that view. And in philosophy they call this world view.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to imagine that Guru Gobind Singh, in this situation at Anandpur Sahib, now we're talking about a financial crisis.
Yes.
Let's put this into perspective. Guru Gobind Singh's father had been beheaded by the most powerful man in the world, Aurangzeb.
Mm-hmm.
And Guru Gobind Singh didn't even weep. He said, "This is Maharaj's bana." And then after that point, Maharaj started to prepare for Judd, and he was only a small child. And then Maharaj would listen to Kavishari, and every day he'd hold a divan, he would get up meticulously, he would do seva of the Sangatan. And then Maharaj started this project of writing his own literature. And what was that literature for? To make us into Singhs, into lions, to make the humble saint into the person who leaves everything into God, into somebody who's a proactive renunciate, somebody who can renounce everything but be proactive at the same time.
That's so true, because that's what we forget a lot of the time.
Hanji.
Especially when we have this fear element.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about, the removal of the fear.
Yeah.
Is that if you take your fear out of yourself and actually give it to Maharaj, there's no other fear left. If you've left yourself in a forgiving position and you realise that you're actually on hukum, on some kind of purpose in life, you give everything that you have within inside yourself to them to handle, and the rest is for you to do your daily go. It's a very simple. That's actually what happened to me in 2006. I've always been the I could say the quiet entrepreneur. I've always got on with things and tended not to talk too much about things. But I find, for me, in 2006, I had a health scare that came through. It's written in my bio online as well. But the health scare was I had hepatitis A, which nearly took my life. Maybe I was getting messages that were sent to me through my work, because at times I was always against the grain, where I never really wanted to try and sell somebody on something. I'd always show them what they required.
That's interesting.
So it's a very different way of doing things. And this comes specifically from my parents and from Barney itself, because we've been very humbled by Barney within our family. And it's been regularly impregnated and purposefully popped in front of us, as I mentioned earlier, with my mother and my father. Mm-hmm. And so I was never out there to try and sell somebody. I was always there trying to touch what they actually really wanted. I was a very good listener. I always just listen exactly to where their purposes, what their needs were, and then try to match them. In 2006, I had a hepatitis A scare, which took me out of the working environment for 2 months in hospital and 11 months away from the family as a whole and the companies.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, I was actually 31 at the time.
Yeah.
I actually had my 32nd birthday in hospital. It was a situation where the family didn't actually realise that. Nobody really knew whether I was actually going to pull through. Obviously, that's something that the Maharaj and we understand that. Today, I understand that. At that time, I never had that thought in my head saying, well, why me? It was never in my head. It was always like, okay, it's just another thing, let's deal with it and move on. Yeah, because I had Porosai myself in my ability, in the ability that was given to me by Maharaj to move forward and get on with life. There were some financial constraints that came across at the time. I came out of hospital at the time and out of my illness, and I had to wind up a couple of my group of companies, individual companies, and re-establish them. Now, at that particular time, I carried on working, and this is just to show you how Sukhi, for me, actually impregnated itself and grew within me. Is that after going through all this ups and downs and being that close to actually not being here, I spent my returning days getting back to re-establishing the companies, getting back into the flow of things, and somehow I found that my mind was not really there. It was consistently dragged away, and I had these thoughts within myself of, why don't I go and help more people?
Wow.
I'd worked in 20 sectors, as I explained, and I'd had a multitude of companies within property, landlording, developing, retailing, importing, manufacturing, and electronics.
All these
residential
by the time you were
homes.
in your 30s?
Yeah, it's a part of our family group as well.
Okay.
Every member of our family, my sister and my brother, and we were all a part of the same team. My two nephews at the time, they were a part of the team as well. And we employed over 100 people within our group of companies. So I didn't realise that this wasn't my path. Now, maybe the path was trying to squeal at me earlier, but I was paying no attention to it. It's like sometimes when you have rose-tinted eyes, glasses, if you tend to wear a set of yellow-framed glasses, you won't see the difference between yellow and white. To you, they'll just look like yellow. The white will look like yellow, and so will the yellow. So the truth of the fact is that for me, afterwards, I realised that actually there had to be a purpose of my life. There had to be
amazing
a mission.
age, yes.
So it changed for me. I'm sorry to take up so much time here.
No,
but for me, it was about the transition of how I could share the knowledge that I had acquired from my father, my parents, my actual brother-in-law, everybody I'd touched and been involved with, and how I could actually re-articulate it and augment it into the next generation. The question you were asking before, where do the children go? They, at the precise minute, they're either conforming, as you were just saying, their own Kamalroop that the children either inside they're inside the circle of masti, or they're outside the circle of in the circle of education. The reality is I never conformed to either. For me, I was
you are a rebel as well, in a nice kind of way.
In a conceptual form,
yeah.
Yes, but in the sense of that, everybody, a Sikh, should be able to integrate into any society. And that's a natural trait of every person out there, human being. If you look for the things you want to see, you will find them. I then started looking for ways of changing other people's lives and what possibly I had to give. It was a big transition because I never felt I had anything to give to start with, until I started touching people on a one-on-one basis mentoring, coaching them out of their businesses, and realise that actually this is making a tremendous difference to their life.
Fantastic.
Socially, personally, religiously, spiritually, and then moving forward in business as well. Because in my opinion, businesses or money isn't a negative of the world, which a lot of people connect to religion. To me, it's an integrated part of life. You should have money to help others.
It's interesting because I think as humans, we tend to put ourselves into boxes. Okay, that person's spiritual. Okay, probably lives on a mountain and meditates, and that's all he does.
Yeah.
Okay, that person, oh, he's a millionaire, so he just lives the fast life, whatever that means. You know, and it's that kind of
selfish life. And
yes, and most of the time, it's it's the individual that counts. You know, it's what they do with themselves.
If we look at Guru Gobind Singh's purpose of writing the Dasam Granth Sahib, we have Guru Granth Sahib, which is when we read Guru Granth Sahib's Bani, we get a lot of shanti, we get a lot of humility, we get a lot of devotion. And the Dasam Granth was written to motivate us, to empower us, and to make us knowledgeable about secular affairs and how to operate on that level. And business is a secular affair, family, and so on and so forth. And so Maharaj carried on the tradition which Guru Nanak started, which is Miri, Piri, Sant, Sipahi, Seva, Simran, Bana, Bani. So when we look at the Khanda sign, the symbol of Sikhi, what do we see in there? We see the two halves are united, and it's almost like a lotus flower of weapons.
So it's instead they should, in a sense, we should be reading them both, because a lot of people have, again, so much misinformation. I think it would have been almost better, and I say this just in a sense where there was no information, as opposed to at the moment it's half information, and I feel that's even more dangerous because the water gets totally muddied, you know?
Adi, if you think about this on a historical level, and I'm sorry that I might bore the people at home and you guys as well. When we look at colonialism, so if we look at what's happening in Iraq now, in Libya, like Colonel Gaddafi today, he got killed, and so on and so forth. This is all about Rajniti, world politics.
Yeah.
And in world politics, the strongest person will survive. This is what we've seen in world history. We look at the Native Americans, there's hardly any of their tribes left that were originally there. Now Sikhi is in a very unique position. We are one group of people in many cultures of the world where we've come out intact through a colonial process. And what am I talking about? I'm talking that 100 odd years ago, the British, they came into Punjab, they made schools, the railway system, postal system, and they indoctrinated us into a certain way of living and thinking. And with Guru's Kirpa, we've survived that process.
Yeah.
But when you take over another group of people, you don't want them to be armed, you don't want them to be self-empowered, you don't want them to be confident, you don't want their scriptures, the Dasam Granth, which tells you to have those gone, those virtues, you want them to be subservient, you want them to listen to what you've got to say, you want them to be fearful. So this is one of the reasons that through the colonial process and before partition, the Dasam Granth was removed from the Prakash next to Guru Granth Sahib. And if we look at the evidence for that, the Punjab, outside of the Punjab, there are two more takhts, the Takht Sahibs.
Yes.
There's Patna Sahib, Takht Harmandir Sahib there, and then we've got Takht Abjal Nagar Hajur Sahib. And in both of these takhts outside of Punjab, you'll see Guru Granth Sahib da Prakash, and next to it, Dasam Granth Sahib da Prakash.
It's because they were so far away from Punjab, they were left alone almost?
That's right, because at those times they were not in economically important areas for the British, for the British to even care about them. But the Punjab, there was already a lot of farming, there was already a lot of commerce going on in Punjab, that the British had a vested interest to pacify the Sikhs.
But see, the British have been gone for so long now.
Hanji.
What is stopping, Mr. Joe Bloggs Singhji from so-and-so saying, do you know what, okay, this is how it was before, let's put it back.
There is nothing stopping us. Okay. And if we go to Punjab, like Baji's just been to India, you'll find that traditional Mahapurush groups, certain Sikh sects or Sampradama, they still keep Dasam Granth Prakash, they still venerate Guru Gobind Singh's Bani. But the mainstream Sikhs, which the organisations were created via the British colonial process, they have sidelined the Dasam Granth. It's not that they don't believe in the Dasam Granth, we have to be very fine with our points.
Is it because they just don't have the information?
They don't have the information, and unfortunately, one colonial process is incrementalism. So you make a change slowly over time, and through one and a half lifetimes, the paradigm or the status quo has been shifted. It's changed radically.
Okay, so I do agree. You know, a lot of what you say. My question is, is that because there's been, I feel, so much misinformation simply that there was no information, you know, people just didn't understand. It's like, you know, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, you know, we're going to Gurdwara, you know, and that is our living Guru. And so people didn't understand, okay, if we have the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji there, where does the Sri Dasam Granth Sahib, where does that fit in? And I think that's the paradox. I think a lot of people...
We can explain this quite simply. Nearly every sect that I know in their house, they have a Pavitra painting of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And when we look in art, they call it an archetype. If we look at the archetypal form of Guru Gobind Singh, he has the beard, so he's like a rishi, a muni, a manishwar, a jogi. He's renounced the world. He's not into vanity. He's completely one with Rab's hukam, which is to remain sabat surat, to remain one with how his body, how Rab Hanji has designed it. Then at the same time, he has objects of royalty. So he has a Kalgi, he has objects of being a warrior, Kshatri, he has his bow and arrow, he has a sword. So Guru Gobind Singh, he takes on this archetypal form of a Sant Sipahi, of a Mahan being, of an ultimate, we call it Puran Gur Avatar. So the avatar of the Guru, of Akal, of this very high form. And what is that high form telling us? That in order to find Waheguru, we don't have to renounce physically, we have to renounce mentally. We have to renounce within us. So going back to money, and you know, I'm a humble banda in that respect, but how can you put money aside when all of society, the langar that we make in the Gurdwara has come from money, the trade that we do has come from money?
See that, I'm so glad you're saying that.
And if we look at the Darbar Sahib Baji, Maharaj set up Harmandir Sahib and Amritsar as a place of commerce and not only religion. So we had this Miri Piri, and now we're saying, oh, religion is about being boring and sitting there, and old people go to the Gurdwara and we fall asleep. Sikhi, real Sikhi, is full of passion, it's exciting, it's full of ecstasy, it's overflowing with love, with poetry, with life, and with just so many exciting things. And that's what the Dasam Granth is a part of that, and so is Guru Granth Sahib.
You know, this is the point that I'm trying to say with, I speak to a lot of young today, and they seem to have this paradigm understanding of two total opposites. You're either into religion or into business or into money.
Yes. Now
the reality is that it's not clean cut like that, and that's a mistake. Because if I understand this correctly, that Babaji, my dad, mentioned this to myself earlier on, and many times, because I've always quizzed, how can somebody be working, earning money, and also be religious at the same time? And they said that Guru Nanak Dev Ji's son Sri Chandji actually went searching for a sant of the time. At the time was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, if you understand that? And they went to go and find Nanak Dev Ji to witness this being as being a high Ucha being. And as they arrived at his house, as I understand, as I'm translating in English as I understand, is that when they arrived, Nanak Dev Ji was sitting there and they were weaving material. The first thing that came to Sri Chandji's mind was, how is this person a healed Punchaya person when in Maya Pichilakya he's chasing money. He's looking for money over, he's trying to do this, he's trying to do that. And that's when Nanak Dev Ji said to him, said to them directly, he said, Utdya, Bendya, Kidandya, Milandya, Usnanda. something of that sort of nature, where no matter how the use your hands to create, to earn money, because being poor isn't the future. You know, and this links into some of the modern day talks as well, where Abraham Lincoln has clearly stated before, to help the poor, you must not become poor yourself. So there's nothing wrong with looking after your own and earning a good gift, understanding how you can earn enough money to live off and to fend for every single member of your family. And
that makes so much sense, really, yeah.
But also at the same time, keeping the humility, keeping the pride, keeping our naam, keeping our bani nurtured inside us as part of ourselves, keeping it in our center of our heart, believing it's our chit that should be connected to Maharaj, and the rest of the stuff, business-wise, I think we should do as well.
So, putting it through, I think is so important. I think it's the individual. That's where it starts off. You know. Because I think when we talk about Guru Gobind Singh Ji, we in our mind, we think of someone with royalty, someone who's, going forward. He went under so much stress. So from the stories that I read, but he still stood up like royalty. And in today's society, if we are to be the sons and daughters of Guru Gobind Singh Ji,
yes,
what is our tactic if the Sangat is looking and they say, okay, what do I do to change myself? And this is a question to both of you.
Maharaj says a very interesting line, and I won't be brave enough to quote it in Gurmukhi. I'll just tell you the English translation. And Maharaj says, I'm the son of a warrior, not of a priest, that I may break into sweat when I go onto the battlefield. And that's a very interesting line. I've always...
Can you say that again? So
Guru Gobind Singh, he writes, I'm the son of a warrior, not of a priest, that I may break into sweat when I go into the battlefield, like a prasina.
Okay.
Like, when you get afraid,
yes,
you can break into a sweat. And why does Maharaj say that? Maharaj is saying is that inside myself, I've got just such a depth of peace, just such a depth of stillness, that even at a Judd, Jang, even the Makabala, even where there's terror, even where there's fear, it cannot shake me from my position. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very powerful words. And when you apply those to business, you apply those to your family. I sometimes think this to myself when, we all have family things happen, or we're walking down the street, I'm in a situation. Those lines, they give me so much power, because I remember my guru said, don't even move, don't even give even an inch, not even a hair's width. Don't give anything away. And that's the robe of the lion, is to walk in pride. Right. And Maharaj, that's the dignity that he's given us. And going back to what Baji was saying about how poverty isn't a solution, it isn't to be poor, isn't being religious. Bhai Gurdas, in his writings, his Vara, which is considered the key to Guru Granth Sahib, Bhai Gurdas writes that for a sec is Naam, Dan, Ishnan. So we do Naam Simran. Mm-hmm. And what is Naam? Nanak Naam, Chardi Kala, Tere Pane, Sarbat Da Pala. So that Naam is, number one, is Garbani, is Simran, is Mool Mantra. Mm-hmm. But it also elevates us, it's Chardi Kala, it leads us to excellence. Mm-hmm. Where there's excellence, there's always success. Where there's success, there's always Maya. You can't be poor. If you believe in Naam, if you believe in Maharaj. Absolutely. And where there's a Chardi Kala, Tere Pane, Sarbat Da Pala, you do daan, you give away, you can give away, because the naam is infinite. There's always more, there's always more. Yeah. And then ishnan ho janda, because then our karam, our internal male, via this process we're cleaning it away, and we're making a better life for ourselves and for other people.
This is beautiful. Sukhi,
on that point, it's just an amazing amplification of what you said. It's just beautiful that you said it. For myself, basically, those were the key points, the core points of my movement. It's about, for me, it's about being confident, but being selfless at the same time. To be present and not to be wayward in my thought process. So things that I talk about with my coaching and planning and focusing people on an individual basis. It's about understanding that you can't actually build a house, and this is the foundational conversation that we're talking about. You cannot build a building, a property, without any foundation. And if you get the foundation wrong, which for me, Sukhi is our foundation, and if we get that foundation wrong, whatever structure you build upon it, it will fracture. You must have heard of people who are going through business life, making money, losing money, making money, losing money. It's because when they've made the money, they get into a situation, it's called a yo-yo effect. Mm-hmm. They make the money and they get to a situation where they're not quite sure what they're going to do with it. They've spent it, they've understood it, they were thinking that money was about spending it, enjoying it, and that kind of thing. Well, actually, this leads to another conversation of seva. Yeah. The real understanding of having more money is seva. I'll tell you a Hadviti story. It's again my father, so talking about my dad again, and when we were brought up around in an environment, and I think I'm talking about all my siblings and brothers and sisters, where Dad used to consistently, beyond our knowledge at the time, give money to Gurdwara Sahib, and he's going to tell me off for mentioning this, but obviously because it's their seva and it's unknown and information, scheduled. But I'll share with you that they used to regularly give. Jithe Gurdwara Sahib needed some renovation, or even Gurdwara Sahib needed to build, they used to supply and fund the renovation. Palki Sahib needed to be updated, so they'll help them on this way, a building fund, etc. And this is not just in the UK, this is around the world. Beautiful. And again, all without any kind of name state. Yes. And we used to get quite, kind of wound up by this, thinking, hang on, Dad, because we were working all so hard for this money, and we just give it away. Somebody just rings you up and says, Ki, son, we need a new ambulance. There's a Sansalji in Delhi, and they go by the name of Virji, without going into too much detail of what they cover, but they rang up one day and the conversation arose where they needed an ambulance. Now, Dad just turned around and said, okay, G, I'll send you the money, you can buy a brand new ambulance. So they arranged, and I was in this debate with them, I think I must have been about 25, 26, I said, we work so hard for this money, and if that's what my life's all about, how comes you just give it away at a drop of a hat? He said, son, you'll learn later. A few years gone past and the same sort of thing happened again. And I repeated the question. He said, I think you might be old enough to understand this now. They said, if you have been given money, now please correct me if you feel this is wrong, but I feel this is the way I would like to live my life. If you have been given money, money is given to everybody. And the people who show a particular impetus and understanding of what money really is, and how money is given to us to help others, not for ourselves, to help others to change their lives, to expand their way of thinking, and to give them a better life. The more you give away, somehow miraculously it just turns up more. Not to become richer within the knowledge of helping others through seva, through no selflessness.
It's the energy, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So we consistently, and today I stand understanding this conversation, where if anybody was to say, we need help in a certain environment, I'd be the first one to help and get involved in some kind of form of charity. And I understand that Carl Said is doing a tremendous job.
They are,
and helping.
Especially they're helping bereaved widows, and I
Absolutely.
really do think Ravi in that aspect from Carl Said is doing a fantastic job. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to meet up with Ravi as well. And see what we can do to try and help further forward. I was recently approached by the British Asian Trust, which is a trust made up by the Prince of Wales in England, and they requested that obviously we come and meet them. And obviously it was initially under a conversation around how much can you help us, because we're out the way trying to. There's a gentleman called Hitan who goes out his way, and they run an organisation where they go with NGOs in India, in Pakistan, and in Africa's, and they go and physically help non-governmental organisations to try and help them sustain charity of some kind. And so we spent a long time, and we seem to have connected, and the conversation arose where afterwards they asked me to possibly become an ambassador or a trustee. I went over to India just recently, and I went to Mumbai, and I saw that seva within itself is rife if you're looking for it. And if you want to be a part of it, you should get involved. Now, in order to help somebody by giving seva, going back to the conversation we were having a moment ago, you must have the money in the first place. You have to understand.
I think, Raji, that is, That is so right, and I think that is where people. It's probably more of an emotional rather than logical, but I think a lot of people agree, and I think internally a lot of people have this. I think it comes from the aspect, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, Cindy, in terms of you have to be humble, and I think they think if being humble means to have nothing, you know.
Many people, they look at Guru Nanak's tasveer, and Guru Nanak's got his eyes half closed or looking up or pointing, but they don't realise another side of Guru Nanak. When Babur was committing atrocities in India, he stood up, and the Babur Bani, Maharaj said it, and Maharaj was imprisoned. So you had somebody who rebelled against, and then Guru Nanak, we all say Raj Karega Khalsa Ki Re Na Koi. Many people don't realise Guru Nanak said that at Makkah. So they're not the words of Guru Gobind Singh, they're the words of Guru Nanak. And in that same Bani called Karni Nama, which is about the future, Guru Nanak said, how will the Khalsa get Raj? And Maharaj said, by langar. By making langar for the Garib. But if we haven't even got any Maya, we haven't got the resources.
Help others.
Exactly. Asi langar kidan hona. How can we do Khalsa Raj when we're not going to help fellow people, fellow beings, animals even, and our charity doesn't even extend far? And if we look at the Ingreji, we can learn a lot from the Asai, because they've gone to Africa, they've done Dan, they've gone to India and done Dan. They're doing Dan all over the world. And through Guru Gobind Singh and Dasam Granth, he calls it Dan Taran. And in Guru Granth Sahib talks about Dan as well. And that Dan, it creates energy, it creates power. Because when you fulfill someone's basic needs, they have hunger, to give them shelter, etc. There's a pyar that is formed. And in that way, Guru Nanak, when he started the langar, that's how what we're Sikh now. Our ancestors weren't Sikh at one point. We came from somewhere else. Who knows who they were? And then they became Sikh. So if we go to the other places like Khalsa Aid is doing, go to Africa, and we expand, because if we look at an organism, an organism has a life cycle. First, it is born out of a sperm and an egg. And then once it grows, you'll keep on growing and growing, but then it gets to a point when it starts to go and it's going to die. And the Panth, we've become too insular. We're living in a ghetto. We're just so separated from the world, and we don't realise actually, you know what, and this is my beinti to all the uncles and aunties out there who are millionaires, because there's plenty of Sikhs who've paid off their mortgage. Go out there, go to another country and do seva with another organisation.
We need enough in this country, Singh, you know.
Get out of your houses, get out and do something.
See, that's why I thought in this instance, Sukhi, that's what I found the difference, because as you know, I know the Sikh community on the whole is a very, and it's recognised as a very prosperous community, but there's very few people who know how to teach.
Maharaj, you know why? We're all waiting for the leader, but Maharaj gave every single Singh and Singhani Sardari. We're all leaders, that's why we're all lions and we're all lionesses. We're all leaders. So there's no point waiting around for a leader to come along or to somebody to teach you. Get empowered, believe in Maharaj, believe in yourself, get out into your community, participate in the Gurdwara, and go further, go into the local council, go and do something for another charity where there's different people. And once we start expanding, every Sikh expands, we will be a force to be reckoned with in the world.
Absolutely.
Sikh is not about just doing things for other Singhs and other Sikh. It's about the world. It's about helping mankind, because our first religion, base and understanding is what the Mandir taught us: humanity. We need to be humans first. We need to help our fellow brothers. We need to get out there, and for that we need the identity. We need to be able to understand that this is a part of our life. It's our purpose to go and help other people. So to accumulate is absolutely no sin, as long as you're helping. I mean, the world's charities, just to give you a statistic, 80% of income and money, as I understand it, with the last report I was reading, of money within charity systems is actually from the rich. So just to amplify what you're saying, the rich are helping, and the rich are the ones who are doing it. It is not the poor who help the poor.
Yes.
Lincoln said it is not the poor. You cannot be helping the poor by becoming poor.
Yes.
You have to arrange yourself in such a way that you have enough for yourself and your families, because that's about
That's the basic, isn't it?
That's our duty
As a Sikh,
It's
yeah,
our
no,
duty as a
absolutely
human
right,
being and as a
yes.
Sikh, that we have to look after our own. And then we can start thinking about
Right,
others. It's about understanding after. We must accumulate enough for helping others. There has to be a purpose in life for the accumulation, because we are not going to spend it all while we're here. We're going to leave this earth, and we came alone, we go alone. As I understand, Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to, I'm sure you can help me, Singh Sahib, to a very prestigious prestigious king's place, where he was very full of himself, very arrogant about, I have this and I have that, and he was boasting at how he takes money off all of the poor people in the world and keeps it and puts it into his godam. And they said, you know what, as my dad says, Maharaj said, Nanak Dev Ji was going around the world as a pilgrim, and they were putting the people who had power, people who had energy and strength, and putting them on the right path.
Yeah.
Now, he was taking money and keeping it away, and Maharaj went up to him and said, you're doing an absolutely amazing job. You seem ever so powerful, more powerful than the most. Do me a favour. Ek mere se kaam karna. And they pulled out a sui and said, take this pin, please. When I go the other side, I will collect it from you. When you go and I go, take this with you. You seem to have more power. You're going to take all this with you.
That's amazing. I've not heard of this.
You're going to take all this with you. Please hold this sui, take it with you, and give it to me on the other end. And he said, yes, is that it? I'll do that for you, no problem. And off Maharaj went, Nanak Dev Ji went with their son spy and went away and walked away. And as they're walking away, he went back to his wife and said, this man is pardon. I asked him to do anything he wants. I have enough power to do anything he wants. And he said, do me a favour, take this pin with you on the other side, and I'll take it up to you over there because I need it over there. And his wife, who was watching as well, she said, the Queen said, go and give this back, because your whole term is going to be finished. You will never be able to do this. You'll never be able to give it to him. So they went running behind Maharaj and said, Maharaji, please take this back. I will not be able to fulfill this. So the reality is that we're going to leave everything here.
Yeah.
And that man, by the way, that king realigned himself and started giving back.
Wow.
Started sharing his money back again, started reducing the taxes and helping people get on their life and get on the ladder and fend for themselves. This logic is what we've got to remember. We are going to leave it all here.
Yeah.
We must work with our pride, our identity intact, but we should also have humanity within ourselves, which is a core part of Sikh.
And help the local community.
And help everybody else.
I mean, we do projects at the moment, where you go to London. We're going to start the soup run soon. Helping, people who are not doing well for themselves, And I think what's amazing is that we all have skills, And what I like about Kamalroop Singh Ji and Sukhi is that you've got business mentoring. You mentor Kamalroop Singh. I know because I've seen you in action. This is not something that Kamalroop Singh knew I was going to ask about. I've seen him in action, so I know Sukhi. I heard about Sukhi not from Sukhi. I heard from somebody who was just talking about how they were aligning themselves in the business sense. I said, tell me more. So what I like about them is that they don't say this is me. No, I've heard about both of you. What you're doing for fellow mankind, and I think for the Sunday that's watching, if it's all right with you, put your details onto the It Conscious website.
I'd be honoured.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. So at least for somebody who says, I need some more information, maybe you can help, whatever. They at least have a point of contact. So we will do that. I promise, Sangaji. I know we're rapidly running out of time, and I'm being told this. So any last words? I'd just like to say thank you for the band who gave us these amazing cakes and flower ball cakes. She will be on next week, and it's just another example of somebody who's doing something to build themselves up, and we're all enjoying the benefits. This is literally.
We will be.
Yes. After this show, but this is literally the case of having your cake and enjoying it, but literally enjoying it. But as we talk, Sukhi Ji, any last words?
I'd be honoured to be a part of somebody's journey. I do work as a mentor, as a coach, and I have a group of companies in this sector now. We're looking at corporate training and how I'm opening up an office in Mumbai soon.
That's a city close to my heart, and family from the marriage side.
And we're endeavouring to try and prime students into employment and vice versa, employed individuals into entrepreneurial skills. I teach NLP to a master's level. We teach training, we teach communication and media. So if anybody is interested in even working with me as an individual or having me keynote speak anytime, would it be fair to share my details?
Absolutely.
My website is actually sukhiwahiwala.com, so I'd be honoured to have any kind of contact. You can get hold of me in any particular way. I think we met with Benji Japjit Kaur, who was from Belgium at the time, and she was a fellow panellist at the Barclays Wealth keynote speak that we did recently with a very close friend and of both of ours, Paramjeet.
Yes.
The Paramdeep, sorry, I do apologise, Paramdeep Singh with the City Seeks Network.
Yes, yes.
And I think my advice would be to get involved in as many charitable, religious avenues you possibly can. As a child, I was always surrounded by that sort of logic, and so it is very possible. Even if you have financial difficulties, because I've been through those as well, and re-established as well, and keeping on. What has been consistent throughout is none. Is keeping myself in focus with hukum and understanding.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ji. And Kamalroop Singh Ji.
My colleague Gurinder Singh Maan, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, we've written this book.
Please, if you could please show the camera. We will put details on the Conscious Living website. And
I want to mention, it's a not-for-profit book, so we're not making any profit from this. Any money that we make will go to print the book and just make it a better book.
If you could just hold that up to Sangatji so they can see this, because I think it's vital that we all read it to understand and question. You know, as Sikhs, we don't just read it and take it at face value.
Bajit contains questions and answers about the Dasamgram. So somebody who's got no knowledge or has even got advanced knowledge, they can learn a lot from this. And a lot of this research...
Where can they get it? We'll put details. Where can they get this?
It's World Wide Web, archimedespress.co.uk.
Okay.
And Gurinder Maan, he did 10 years research in this. He did his MA.
This is the
co-author.
Gotcha. Okay.
And myself, I did 10 years research and I did my PhD in this subject. So this is a humble offering to the Panth, to our brothers and sisters. We're not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect. He's not claiming to be perfect. He's a Sarsari Sekh himself. But this is our seva for the Panth. And we just hope that the Sangha Sardas and their Ashirvad is with us so we can continue serving them.
Well, we thank you for just sharing, and I thank both of you for taking the time out to come here and share with us your experiences of life, and thank you for coming to the Conscious Living Show. We will put all the details onto our website, and just to let you know that this is just hopefully a start of the relationship where people who have questions, they can come and we can get that back. So it's not just a one-off show, and hopefully with your blessings, hopefully you'll join us again.
Thanks for having us.
Give us a call whenever you want.
Thank you. Swami Ji, Waheguru Ji
Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.